A US Marine is abandoned in the desert following a botched assassination attempt. Due to his exposure to the weather, he must contend with the psychological and physical effects of the hazardous circumstances while surviving the desert's hazards. Marine sniper Sergeant Mike Stevens is on a mission to find and eliminate the commander of a terrorist cell while operating in the midst of the desert, where there are 33 million blast mines planted all over the place. 1 second of hesitation can ruin an entire mission after 3 months and 6 days in the desert, leaving Sergeant Stevens trapped in hostile guerrilla terrain alone and, to make matters worse, with his left foot on a live mine for the following 52 hours, until a convoy arrives in his region. The sergeant must remain stationary and use his marine training, inventiveness, and tenacity against the hostile environment and lack of water. Sergeant Stevens must battle not only the powerful elements of nature but also his greatest foe of all, himself, in order to survive the sweltering heat of the day and the piercing cold of the night. We witness a seasoned soldier in camouflage bidding goodbye to a young woman at the airport and flying on a chopper to his next mission in between scenes. The Marine Mike, Army Hammer, and his spotter Tommy, Tom Cullen, are positioned on a bluff overlooking a desert in the following scenario. When they observe numerous people on foot on one side and numerous armed cars on the other side approaching, Mike is totally awake and serious while Tommy is having a light-hearted conversation. Mike hesitates because the target's descriptions do not entirely correspond to what they are seeing. Mike believes the gathering is a wedding and that the target may be the groom's father as Tommy and the person on the radio urge him to carry out the hit. Further complicating matters, Mike is told to kill the groom so he can get to the target even though the target is now behind the groom and is not known to have a son. Mike cancels the expedition, claiming that they have lost him, but the armed lookouts guarding the ceremony then see them. Through a cunning diversion Mike sets up, they succeed in getting away and ask for evacuation. They are informed that in order to reach a settlement where they can be picked up, they must cross the desert in front of them. They start because they know it will take them 4 hours to fight off armed opponents and the weather. We learn that Mike has Jenny, Annabelle Wallace, his girlfriend, and that Tommy has a wife and a son back home. It is further revealed that Tommy is a chatterbox while Mike is a guy of few words. Tommy is aware that Mike is being eaten from the inside out, but Mike won't discuss it. Tommy makes fun of Mike for not being able to make the huge decision to ask his girlfriend to be his girlfriend. A caution sign comes swirling out of the wind and lands directly in front of Mike's feet while they wait out a sandstorm in the midst of the desert. Tommy reassures Mike that it's just a Berber ruse to deter adversaries and that it simply indicates that they are near their target, but Mike takes it seriously and lists the number of mines buried in these regions. He begins to move forward irrationally, babbling about how thirsty he is and cracking jokes. Tommy is really appreciative of Mike for sharing some of his water with him. Mike is still walking slowly and thinking about the warning notice they saw. A few yards in front of him, Tommy is carelessly strolling backwards, while joking about how Mike is an overanalyst after just downing some water. A click is heard when he briefly stops going while trying to recall something, but before Mike can warn Tommy, he begins walking, setting off the mine he had just walked on. Mike takes a step towards Tommy, temporarily losing his hearing, and as his foot touches down, he hears another click. In disbelief, he freezes. As the blast sand begins to clear away, their ears begin to ring. Tommy is still alive after the explosion, but he is missing both of his legs below the knees. He is yelling for Mike while completely unaware of everything. Mike tries to soothe Tommy down despite being unable to move himself. When Tommy notices the condition of his legs, his panic increases and he begins to scream even louder. When nothing seems to be working, Mike mentions Tommy's son, which calms him down and allows him to administer the morphine that Marines carry in their front pockets. But in his pain, Tommy grabs the second morphine tube, and despite Mike's repeated orders to stop, he injects himself once more. Mike stands by helplessly as Tommy shoots himself in the head while feeling overwhelmed by emotions and opiate overdose. Mike struggles to survive in the desert while unable to move for the duration of the film. The first thing he notices is that, despite Tommy being several yards away, the radio is still close to him. He uses what he has to his advantage to obtain the radio, only to discover that the battery is dead and that Tommy's body contains the spare. Another sandstorm then blows in with full force. He is able to remain in place and wait it out. When it's finished, the first thing he notices is that while the radio has drifted too far from his reach, the storm has brought Tommy's body, and thus the spare battery, right next to him. A few hours later, a seemingly dim-witted Berber, Clint Dyer, comes stumbling along from the direction Mike is facing. He makes fun of Mike for not moving on and continues on his way without even providing him water, much less his radio, while completely oblivious to the life-threatening peril he is in. But afterwards, a young child, in Spar Mill, appears with Mike's flask, which the Berber had stolen. Mike is relieved to find it filled with water when she offers it to him. Despite the fact that the girl is silent, she appears to be telling Mike to exit the mine and continue utilizing her toy soldiers. Mike scares the girl away by becoming too loud and eager in his haste to reach the radio. Later, the Berber returns and aggravates him further. He doesn't seem to care about his requests for him to get Mike the radio as he continues to talk about how Mike should move on. But eventually, he brings it over, telling Mike that there won't be any music where he is. Mike is finally able to get in touch with his commanding officer. The next moment they can pick him up by land is 52 hours from now, he is informed. The major advises him to try excavating a trench and jumping in it, as this would only cause a non-life-threatening limb loss. Setting a countdown on his watch, Mike chooses to wait it out and be tough. He is left with little choice but to wait, which causes him to experience flashbacks of people and events from his past that have troubled him for his whole life. We learn that he endured a great deal of physical and mental abuse at the hands of his father, Jeff Bell, as a child, and that he frequently witnessed spousal violence in his own home. Because he joined the Marines and left his mother, Juliet Aubrey, with an abusive spouse before returning when she was near death, he believes that he is a coward. He appears to be hesitant to propose since he doesn't believe he is deserving of Jenny. According to him, Jenny was nothing but patient, helpful, and caring, while he only added problems to the relationship. For some reason, every one of his flashbacks ends with him on one knee, exactly as he is now, and a click. He begins having hallucinations as he becomes more and more worn out, sleep-deprived, and battered by the elements. He physically punches, shouts, talks, and yells in the middle of the desert as reality merges with his delusions. He endures to nights of defending himself from attacks by stray dogs. Following a similar zigzag path to escape the mines, the Berber comes by after the first night and tells Mike he is lucky to have survived this long. The Berber is testing Mike's patience, but he seems to get less dim-witted as he challenges Mike's decisions and persistently urges him to quit being afraid and go on. He tells Mike that he himself had trodden on a mine before and lost one of his legs as a result. He displays his wooden leg to him. He claims that when it happened, he mistakenly believed that his days were numbered because no lady in her right mind would give a one-legged guy a second glance. However, it was during that hospital stay that he met the woman who would become his wife. Since then, he has been blessed with a successful marriage and lovely children, and none of it would have occurred if he had continued to be fixated on the mining like Mike is now. Mike receives bite wounds on the second night of fending off the hounds. The following morning, he nearly passes out from exhaustion and dehydration. Fortunately, the Berber sees him seemingly out of nowhere and takes care of his wounds. Mike accuses the Berber of not truly caring what happens to him, since if he did, he would bring help, as it is obvious that he knows how to escape the mines. This accusation comes after Mike has become weary of the Berber's unending optimism. He claims that without the Berber's knowledge, the Berber's daughter brought Mike the water on the first day. The Berber takes a brief stop. We discover that the Berber himself gave Mike the water and that he doesn't truly know where the mines are, just he's taking a chance by traveling in zigzags. During one of their father-daughter outings to take up mines and replace them with tin cans, she perished in a mine explosion, he informs Mike, thus he is now left without a daughter. Mike is perplexed as he listens. The Berber informs him that while he is pleased that his daughter came to meet Mike, he must now go on. He then departs. When the Major informs Mike on the radio that his rescue has been put off for several hours, Mike almost leaves the mine. His hallucinations become even more frightening and realistic, but we learn that her mother kindly approved of him moving forward with his life before she passed away, and that his girlfriend, despite everything he's done to ruin their relationship, sent him off to this mission with love, a smile, and a promise to wait for him. His father confronts Mike in the desert as he completely loses touch with reality. He challenges and mocks him at first, but after a while, he becomes emotional and seems to be sorry for everything he has done. When Mike decides not to shoot him, they sob together and embrace. He then hears over the radio that the rescue team is currently passing by his location and that he must give them his precise location because they are unable to stop and seek for him. Mike notices that the only thing he can use to communicate his location, the flare, is out of his reach as he begins to get shot at by two people over the hill. Tommy shows up next to him alive and well just as he is ready to give in, going through the facts with him and outlining what he needs to do. Mike uses his last remaining strength to shoot and kill the enemies before beginning to dig a trench so he may dive in as quickly as possible. He gets the bravery he needs and leaps since he's determined to pop the question to his love right away. There is no event or explosion. He discovers that the mine he thought he had trodden on was actually a tin can that the daughter of the Berber had probably placed there when she was a child. He shoots the flare and is rescued, relieved and grateful to be alive despite the non-lethal bullet wounds he received during the confrontation with the two hostiles. Jenny is at the airport back at home, waiting for him with tears of joy in her eyes. He gets down on one knee in front of her before giving her a hug. How did you feel after listening to the story of the movie? Share your views in the comment section. Please subscribe the channel if you like it. If you like it, share it with your loved ones and friends.